Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Don't Screw Up Your Kids podcast. I am your host, Kalisha Washington, your parenting BFF, and I am super excited to introduce to you all our first guest. Our guest today is Aujanee Cosey. Listen, this one is near and dear to my heart because she was one of my students back when she was in 11th grade. Now she's grown, and although they're still my babies, she's a baby with a baby. She is my baby with the baby, and I'm super excited to have her here on the podcast to share with you her experiences. So, first of all, tell us what you've been doing since you graduated from Sacramento High School in 2014.
Oh man. So I've been for the most part working for state government. I started working for the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration back in 2018. I worked there and with the Department of Public Health for a couple years until I moved from California to Houston back in 2024. And then I was working for the Texas Comptroller, kind of dealing with the same stuff, dealing with state taxes, the collection of state taxes up until Monday when I quit, because I am going to be coming back to California in a couple weeks due to my son's diagnosis. I just think it's a lot easier in California for these type of diagnoses.
Yeah. So, how old is your baby? And tell us a little bit about him and him as just as a child.
He is 3. His name is Samani. He is a very hyperactive kid. He doesn't talk much. He is considered speech delayed at the moment, not nonverbal, just because he is so young. He's sweet. He's fun loving, but he can be a lot. He is not everybody's cup of tea. Most autistic children will not be. Most of any neurodivergent children will not be. But he's not a bad kid. It just kind of what works for you. I can't tell you what will work for you and Samani. I can tell you what works for me and him. I can't tell his dad what works for him and Samani. You have to kind of figure that out. And I've noticed that when it comes to a lot of neurodivergent children, it just depends on their relationship with that person at that time.
Yeah. And I think that's with all kids because you'll always have kids that have their own relationships with each person. And I saw
Yeah.
that as a teacher. You'd have kids who were great at school and bad at home, and you'd have kids who were bad at school and great at home,
Yeah.
and even kids who were good in this class and bad in that class.
Yeah.
So everybody has their individual relationship with different people. But I saw where you had gone live on Facebook yesterday, and you were talking about how you had to fight well, I don't know if it was yesterday. I saw it yesterday, where you had to fight for your son to have an actual diagnosis of autism. When was it that you first had first of all, how was your pregnancy even before he was born? Was it just was it straight 9 months or anything special?
My pregnancy, I was high stressed, high strung during pregnancy. But overall, I didn't really have too many issues with him. That he was measuring always till 2 weeks over his gestational period. So they were concerned about preeclampsia. So we were going in like every few weeks to have ultrasounds and to measure him. And he was like I think he was about a week or two overdue. So I had to get induced, and which of course led to a C-section. Outside of that, I don't really feel like there was too many issues. It was kind of a rough labor going through 2 labors because you're going in with the mind that you're going to push, and then you sit there for over 24 hours, and then they put you on that table. It was getting a little dangerous. His heart rate was dropping, my heart rate was dropping, so they just decided to go with the C-section. He came out, he made a little bit of a noise, and then he kind of went silent, and then they're like, hey, we're going to go ahead and take him to go get him screaming. So they like rushed out. His dad had to rush behind him. But after that, everything was fine. Um, I did try to breastfeed. I couldn't get him to latch. I started to pump. I felt like I was barely getting anything when I pumped. So I did stop with the breast milk pretty early. He maybe had breast milk for a week or so. And then we went to formula.
Yeah.
And then he was just a formula fed baby. Yeah.
It's so hard when you're trying to pump. Boy, it's
Yeah.
painful, especially with that first baby. Oh my goodness.
And you have to be stress free. And I think that was like, it's too much going on. We're supplementing so much formula for you because I'm not pumping enough. So we might as well just stick to the formula.
Yeah. And I think it would have probably been easier if you had started with him breastfeeding and then were pumping because he would have gotten
Yeah.
it flowing. But trying to get it from zero to pumping is really hard.
Yeah, it wasn't. And it's like I go back to, was it just me being lazy? Was it too much? But it's like I people are like, you should have colostrum right now. And that's before I even go to get induced. There's no colostrum. Then in the hospital, they're like, you should have it. I'm like, no, I don't. So then the nurse comes in and she's messing around. She's like, oh no, you don't. I don't even think I started producing milk to my last day in the hospital. I was in the hospital for like 5 days. So I already knew, like, from that point, I was like, yeah, this is not going at all how I
Yeah,
wanted to go.
that was gonna be
So
hard.
yeah.
And so what things did you notice in your son that made you feel like something is not it's not neurotypical, or there may be some things that you're like, hey, this might be different, or he's not hitting certain milestones. What were those things that caught your attention?
It was definitely the speech, of course. Now a lot of people right now are trying to push speech delays, not autism, but that should be your first indicator to start asking questions. He was just not really saying much of anything. I could tell he could kind of understand. He never slept like a newborn should. A lot of people say like the newborn is the easiest stage. They just sleep. He never slept. And mind you, his father had twins before him. So the fact that something seems off for him, and this is my first kid, I'm like, so something is off. And it was tough for him being a newborn. It was not. I don't feel like it went how it was supposed to be. But that speech, by the time he was about a year to 18 months, they're like, is he saying 50 or more words? And I'm like, 50. And then he gets to about 2, and they're like, is he saying 200 or more words plus 2-word phrases? I'm like, 2-word phrases? No, like, no. So the speech definitely is a big indicator. That sleeping thing too, I did learn later that autistic kids, they lack their natural melatonin. They're kind of insomniacs. So they are the kids who do need that melatonin. So those are my, like, the biggest ones for me.
Okay. And so I know that I ended up doing some research on this, and they were saying that most Black families, when they first tell their doctor that there may be something wrong, they don't get a diagnosis until 3 years after they first mentioned it. And I was like, wow,
Yeah.
and there's always some differences with us because people assume we'll know what we're talking about. Unfortunately, but when you first presented it to your doctor, like what were those conversations like from starting from that point of you first saying, hey, I think something may be wrong?
So it was first just like, no, he's not saying what he should be saying. Is that normal? And she's like, well, some kids, they talk later. Boys are especially slower when it comes to talking. And with my son, he was kind of ahead of the game with other things. He was walking quickly. He was walking by like 9 or 10 months, climbing upstairs, all the active stuff. But they say boys do that. Boys get the hand-eye coordination quicker than girls, and girls get the words. So a lot of it was like, well, every time he's responding to me, he said hi, he gave me high five. Um, he can do this, he can do that. So let's give it some time. And it was fine. I mean, he was young. I didn't want to push that on him. So I was like, fine. And then we moved to Houston, got new doctors. He turned 2. He still wasn't saying what he was supposed to be saying, or saying as many words as he should be saying. And then my stress levels were high, and I feel like I shouldn't be this stressed out. And when you have your first kid, a lot of people are just like, that's just what it is. But no, I just been around too many kids, and I'm like, this isn't the same. As
Mhm.
well as when we moved to Houston, he got kicked out of 2 different daycares.
What? Why? What did they say? What was their reasoning?
The first daycare, he was there for a while. I hadn't been working yet. I was trying to still actively find a job. And so he didn't really need to be there, but I didn't want to throw off his schedule because he has been in daycare for a majority of his life. So the first incidents were usually like jumping off of stuff. He's very fearless. He doesn't really have, especially at that time, he didn't really have too much of a fear of consequences or getting hurt. So he's like jumping off their nursing chair, jumping off the counter. He's having issues with other children. The last incident that got him suspended on that first one was, I guess, he bit another kid or something of that nature. And then when he went back, then that same day he went back, it was pretty much like he has to go. I guess there was something about throwing something. I don't know. I do feel a lot of it was putting 10 on a 2 just because he was a lot. So whatever you can do to kind of get him gone, I do kind of feel like that was the case. And I'm not going to fight for my kid to stay somewhere, regardless if you guys are wrong or not. I don't care. So I pulled him. I ended up getting my job working for the state, and I ended up putting him near my job. Second day, second day, they're like, this is too, we can't, we don't have the place for him. There needs to be 2 teachers, one for the class and one specifically for him. He knocked over a shelf along with the other kid, but the other kid never done anything like that before. But yeah, they let him stay the week because I paid for the week, but by day 2, they were done. So that right there was like, I need something on paper because when it comes time for school, you guys can't just kick my kid out. Like, I'm a single mom, so I need something for somebody to have a little bit more grace for him. I
Yeah.
mean, even if he wasn't diagnosed, like something's going on. So
And then where did he go after he got kicked out of the second school? Was it another daycare?
yeah, so I decided to look for home daycare. So by the time he got kicked out of that second one, it was like I had just started that job. He started the same day I started. It was like November of 2024. So letting him stay that week, that following Monday would have been Veterans Day. So I had 3 days, including a weekend, which a lot of daycares are closed, to find him somewhere to go so I don't lose a brand new job.
Yeah.
So I was like, I think he needs to go back to a home daycare. A lot of the issues both times seems that you need more one-on-one attention. So let me find you a home daycare where there's not that many kids and somebody can just focus. So I was just Googling, and I think it's like Winnie.com where you can find daycares. And I just come across this lady's information. She doesn't have a website or anything. She's just a lady that does daycare from home. And she was amazing. Miss Beverly, her daycare is See and Say Learning Center. She was amazing. She's a little bit further out from where I was living, but it was worth it because I never had any issues. She swears even to this day he's perfectly fine. He just needs some patience. She's like great. Even when I would have to go on trips to Austin, I started just paying her to keep him overnight for that whole week. So she would keep him full time. She was great. She gave me a lot of tips. She thinks she was a pediatrician before. Just she dealt with like kids who can't do anything for themselves, can't walk, can't, just like completely disabled. So my son was a walk in the park for her, and she didn't really have many kids there either.
I love that. It's so important when you find somebody who is passionate about what they're doing and take their job seriously, or her business
Yeah,
seriously, because your kids dependent on that,
yeah,
and I really hate that you had 2 schools that were not willing to put in the work to create a safe space for your child, because, and the problem is a lot of educators are like that.
yeah,
So they want, even all the way through high school, they want to get the problem kids out of their classrooms. And I was always one that was like, bring them here,
yeah. And I'm like, you
because,
guys want the cookie cutter, and that's just not, majority
yeah.
of kids aren't. So
And we say, as educators, we'll say that we are here to affect change, but the kids that really need the support, you don't want to put in the work to help them,
yeah,
And so it's sad to see that. Um, Now, I know you say you're moving from Texas to California because the services are better in California. I would love for you to
yeah,
talk about that. One thing that I know, when you said that your son bit somebody and got sent home, in California, we don't do that, right? At
yeah,
least at least K through 12, kids up to third grade do not get suspended for things that are developmentally appropriate. And it's
yeah.
developmentally appropriate for a kid to bite somebody who's not even school age yet. Like
Right.
a kid that age, it is very much developmentally appropriate for him to bite someone. And so to see him get kicked out of preschool for that or daycare for that is unacceptable to me. I live in Nevada now,
Yeah.
and they do that out here too. I have a
Really?
little cousin who in kindergarten got suspended for 5 days for throwing a tantrum. And I was like, I almost threw a tantrum when I heard he was getting kicked, he was getting suspended. And I didn't even know it was 5 days. When I picked him up, his principal was like, So Kamari, hopefully I didn't mean to say his name, but hopefully when you come back, you won't throw any more tantrums. And I'm like, did you suspend him for throwing a tantrum?
A tantrum?
I almost lost it because I had been a principal
Man.
already when I came in there to pick him up. And so I'm just like, that's unacceptable. But what is it that you think that California has or does better than the experience that he's having in Texas that makes you want to move from Texas back to California?
I would definitely say I've never heard of that. I've never experienced that. The getting kicked out and back to back was insane to me because in Sacramento, he went to my best friend's home daycare, her mom's home daycare, and then to a center. And I never had issues. They would reach out to me for any tips I could give them when he was having issues, but just I never had that issue. And then I just know that California has all these resources growing up there my whole life. And it was just like I got handed this diagnosis in Texas and I just got handed a whole bunch of bills and no like help. Like, yeah, you gave me workshops and resources and like stuff to kind of help me. I don't need to cope. I've known something was wrong since he was one. I get there's a lot of other parents here that are like boohoo and they're trying to come. I need more money. I need his stuff to be free. Insurance would cover, but it would have been $25 a day copay. Well, if they recommended full time, any neurodivergent kid under a certain age, I do not know the age exactly, but they can go to ABA full time, and I feel like they should. Well, that's 25 a day. I work
Mm-hmm.
most. I don't know about California as of right now, but most ABA places I found are typically 8 to 5, 8 to 4. So I need to pay for it before and after care because I still have to go to work. That it was now costing me more than I was already paying out of pocket for daycare. Mind you, I wasn't paying out of pocket for daycare in California. I was getting child action. So I'm already paying out of pocket here for
Yeah.
daycare. I'm still on the wait list and I'm leaving. I'm still on the wait list for what they call NCI here, which is that child subsidized, daycare. I'm still on the list. I've been on the list for about 2 years now. I still haven't gotten called. So we're not getting help for that. Now you need ABA. All that's out of pocket on top of I've missed so much work between um, there was times of he's sick or just anything. So I couldn't imagine him going to preschool and he having issues or they need me to come get him and I'm continuously missing work. So I ended up getting FMLA, which that's just job security, which we all know it's only so great. Because if it becomes a point where it's like this is probably not the best fit for you and your situation, then they would fire me. So I feel like California is just more caring as a blue state when it comes to stuff like this. Like even my FMLA, like you guys know why I'm missing so much PTO. And then when I needed to use my PTO, I still had to do like a leave without pay thing that kind of got denied. But you guys know why I don't have the time. Like even with FMLA, I still have to use my time. So when it comes
Yeah.
to me needing to really go do something, I don't have it. So even that, like I feel like my job would be a lot safer going back to California. There's just a lot more understanding when it comes to that. And the
That's,
resources here, not saying there are none, but you will be on the wait list your whole life.
yeah. Your kid to be grown and graduated high school. We
Yeah.
trying to get on their way off their waiting list. Yeah, I'm glad that we do have situations like where California will help you out. And I learned so much more about autism really moving to when I became principal in a predominantly white school in West Sacramento,
Hmm.
because I had parents who had advocated differently for their kids. Now, and the thing is, being at high schools and middle schools, usually the diagnoses are already in place by then. But after I left Sac High, I went to an elementary school and was instructional coach there. And kids who had autism just did not get the services in the low income schools that they got
Hmm.
in the wealthier schools. So when I went to West Sac, I had kids who they had therapists coming to the school for them, all free,
Yeah.
all public school, and we learned how to give like joint compressions to kids. I was like, I never heard of any of this stuff being in
Wow.
low income communities in the hood. But when you're in white and wealthier areas, all of the services are rolled out for kids. They
Yeah.
get the therapy that they need. And so I hate that the system is like that, but I'm so glad that you are fighting for your kid to get what they need. Now, what recommendations would you have to parents if they saw something different, like what are the things that you may have said to your doctor to keep this on track so it doesn't get forgotten? Because I especially think that parents who are single moms like yourself, or single parents who are working a full-time job, and when the doctor tells you, well, wait till later, you still had to continue to follow up, even when
Yeah.
something like that kept, and they kept telling, wait till later, wait till later, wait till he gets older, wait till this and that. And it's hard to keep making those appointments to go back and forth.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to parents who may be facing something similar?
You have to let them see it. We as a parent, we go into these appointments and maybe your kid is kind of jumping off the wall. You gotta let them. Like I had to realize, like I need to just let him. I'm trying to make appointments at the best time of day when I know he'll be relaxed. No, you gotta. No, we're going when you're most sleepiest. We're going. We're going to this IEP meeting when you're just the most upset. Like I need you to see it so you guys can believe. And then I started to stress my stress level, especially when I learned that parents of neurodivergent children's stress levels are comparable to the stress levels of a war veteran, like who was in combat. So I started to stress in like, I'm really stressed out and it's just me. Like, I need some help. And then just his weak points, stressing those, the speech. By the time he was 2, and he wasn't saying it, and of course they weren't trying to do a diagnosis, which I am thankful for that, because there are some other parents who have it where doctors are immediately trying to push autism, or they're immediately trying to push what they can on kids. And I get it. Fortunately and unfortunately, I didn't have that. I had to push it for myself, and it was like, I don't know, I appreciate that too, that nobody was trying to push it on him or myself. But yeah, just definitely just always every appointment, like, no, he's still not, they're still not, what are we gonna do? And that's when they recommend the ECI, because ECI, your kid will age out of ECI services, which is the early childhood intervention. They will age out at 3. So if you can get everyone, your doctors on board to recommend and put a referral into ECI before they're 3, they can get speech therapy. He was getting, so they did the speech, they recommended speech. We start to do like a Teams meeting so they can evaluate him, to set up his little plan for his speech. And then they realized he was off the chain. They cannot get anywhere. Then they recommended, okay, we need speech and child development therapy. So he was getting both of those services through ECI. One part of Houston, then he was with a whole nother ECI branch because we moved to a different part of Houston. All of his notes, if you were to look at them from the therapist, is we were trying to do this, and then he started to throw a tantrum. We were trying to do this, and then he started to throw a tantrum. We tried to redirect, could not get him. So they got nowhere. Why they got nowhere? Because he needs ABA therapy. He gets his diagnosis. He's diagnosed autistic. You cannot get anywhere with these kids without that ABA therapy, which is why they do recommend skipping preschool, skipping kindergarten, because they can be an ABA full-time up to a certain age, because they're pretty smart. They do pick up on things quickly, but you're not going to get them to learn their ABCs, their 1, 2, 3s, or their colors if they can't sit down. If you touch them the wrong way, and now they're throwing a tantrum for 5 hours. So it's just, you just kind of stress their weak points and don't try to sugarcoat. I know as parents, we try to they're asked questions that you don't know the answer to, and you just try to answer I would say you try to be a little bit biased in favor of your kid, but no, I'll probably put the 10 on the 2. I would put the 10 on the 2. Like,
Yep.
they throw a tantrum and you break down and you don't know how to handle it. Like, stress it, because they already think we're the strongest out anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you have to stress the weak points and stress what you're going through as a parent too, not even just the kid, because you're probably super stressed out.
Yeah, yeah, that's so good. Because also studies have shown that Black kids are often misdiagnosed with ADHD and other disabilities when they
Yes.
have autism. And so when you have the wrong diagnosis, you also oftentimes have the wrong recommendations.
Yes.
And they really want to medicate super quick most of the time.
Yes.
And kids don't. I'm not for or against medication. Some kids need it, some don't, but
Yeah.
it's not a one size fits all. And one thing that I also recognize going into the wealthier white community in West Sac is that you had parents who had their kids on medication, but if the medication didn't work well for them, they took them back to the doctor to get something updated.
Mm-hmm.
They needed to get a different medication, or they needed to get a different dosage, But
Yeah.
they didn't just leave it at that. And what I saw in the lower income communities and predominantly Black and brown, if the medication didn't work, they just stopped giving them the
Yeah.
medication, and that's not helpful either. If the kid needs medication, sometimes they just need to change the diagnosis. But again, like you said, being a single mom, you don't have the time to just keep going
Time.
back and forth because you could lose your job, you know?
Yeah. I
And
do agree with that.
yeah. And so, like River, who you see I put his comment on the screen, but he says, "You are your child's best advocate. And I'm thankful for parents like you who do advocate for their needs." Now, I will be recording a podcast episode with him as well, but he was a teacher's aide at a school. He was after school program at one school. And then when I became principal, I was able to hire him, and he was an amazing aide for our students and all students and students with disabilities as our general ed students. He was really good with that. So I'm glad to see him on here. But now as you were fighting for, what was the thing that really had them to finally say, okay, we're going to go ahead and give you the autism diagnosis?
When he turned 3, as ECI is over, he's aged out. He went through all this speech therapy and all this child developmental therapy. And where are we at? My son, he's 3, so what he should be saying like 4 plus word sentences. We're still at 1 word here and there, and it's not 100% clear. You cannot deny that on top of the getting kicked out of daycares, and you just couldn't deny it anymore. So and I think they just weren't going to fight against me on it. It wasn't like I had too many people fighting. I just had a lot of people trying to wait. And that was my big thing of, like you said, the misdiagnosing. I didn't want to wait because I feel like a lot of them are waiting until they're 5 when they can be diagnosed with ADHD and be medicated, because
Mm,
under 5 you cannot diagnose with ADHD. So I feel like there's a few people that I know where the doctors have pushed it until their kid was 5 and now they have ADHD, let's medicate. And that's not what I wanted. I did not want him to be mixed diagnosed. Now, do I think he might still have ADHD? Yes, he's just too young for it right now. Usually autism comes with a dual diagnosis. So that would be the next step, waiting on that in a couple years. But yeah, once he turned 3, you can't really deny, you can't keep saying he's speech delayed. You cannot keep saying those things. So they did put me on the wait list for Texas Children to do an evaluation. That was taking a long time too. And in the meantime, I was having other more issues. People can't watch him. I'm getting to take these trips to work. People are texting my phone, like, this is the hardest thing I've ever had to deal with. Like
oh,
my child. And I'm just like, okay, something's wrong. So I ended up reaching out to his doctor, and she's like, you know what, I'm going to refer you to this neurologist who takes your insurance. She can do the evaluation too. But then Texas Children, they must have just waited and was trying to wait until he was 3, because the wait list the time frame they gave me was like a year. It was only a few months by the time they called me, which was after his 3rd birthday. So I want to say they were probably just really waiting until he was 3, because then they called
mhm.
and I was like, I want to do both. So let's do that one and let's do that one. So Texas Children's, we're in there. She's like, she's asking him questions. She's trying to do what she can do. Of course, he's doing what he does. So he's doing things that I didn't even know he could do. Like, she's asking me questions, and that's why it's so important. Because even you as a parent, especially me, who I'm not even with my kid majority of the day. I'm at work. He's at daycare. She's like, does he stack, blocks? I'm like, no. We're in there within 30 minutes. He's like stacking blocks, and he's matching up stuff that I didn't even know he could do. So she's like trying to kind of like hold my hand, and like she's scared because I think there's so many parents that kind of go off, or they take it personally, or they're in such denial that I feel like mind you, I don't think she knew that I asked for this, because there's a lot of parents that just kind of get thrown into it and referred to it, and they just
Yeah.
had no idea, and they're blindsided. So she's just kind of like, would you be, and I'm just like, spit it out. like she's like, would you be shocked if I was like, no, I'm kind of just waiting on you. And she's like, yeah, no, I feel he's autistic. She felt level 3. I never felt that. I always felt level 2. He's too smart. He can do a lot of stuff. He can understand you. You just can't understand him. So then the neurologist, a few months later, they same thing but level 2, which is what I thought. But yeah, at 3 they cannot deny it, and at 3 there should be no reason why anybody's pushing against you to not at least go get evaluated for
Yeah.
autism.
What are those levels? What is a level 2 or level 3 or level 1?
So what I was told by them is that they hate the levels. They do not like the levels. The levels are strictly for insurance, which is why she said level 3, so they can get as much as they can out of the insurance. Because again, like I said, stress it. So that's just a way of them to kind of let the insurance know how much help they need. So that's how he was able to get that recommendation for full-time ABA speech. They recommended occupational neurologist, just like me, doesn't feel like he needs occupational. So yeah, the levels are up to you if you feel like they're important or not. It's really for insurance purposes, from what I was told.
Okay. What do you know the things that they're able to do at level 2 versus level 3?
No, because he can be a level 3 and he can feed himself. He can do all this other stuff, but there could be a very severe level 3 who that autistic child that can't feed himself. So that's the part I never really understood, because there are just 1, 2, and 3. They never do a 1 because they need that, they need the approvals. And then the 2 and 3, I've never really understood the difference between the two, because my son could be a level 3 or level 2, and then this boy can be a level 3 or level 2, but my son can do all this stuff, and this boy needs like 100% hands-on help for everything. My son's potty trained for the most part. There's severe level 3 and level 2 kids who are not. So that is the part I'm still trying to educate myself on, to understand and wrap my head around, because I don't get the breakdown either, which I think that's why the doctor just said is strictly for insurance.
Okay. That's good to know. So I just asked ChatGPT, what's the difference in these levels? They said level 1 requires support, speaks in full sentences, may struggle with social cues, back and forth conversation, difficulty with transitions or changes, sensory sensitivities, can appear typical to outsiders, but daily life takes effort. And then level 2, limited or inconsistent speech, noticeable difficulty with social interaction, repetitive behaviors are more obvious, stronger sensory reactions, and difficulty coping without structured support. And then level 3 says minimal to no verbal communication, significant difficulty with daily functioning, strong repetitive behaviors, major sensory challenges, need support across most environments. So I think that's very interesting. And I see that Adriana is on the Zoom as well. She's on YouTube, Facebook, and she said, "Oh, if you guys want to do one together, let me know." She works in ABA as a behavior specialist, and she writes the reports and does all the background stuff. And I appreciate that, because
Yeah.
also I think a lot comes into play when you're dealing with culture, and I don't want to say just race, but cultural differences as well, because some behaviors people will say, oh, like this is like not typical behavior, when it may be, or when it may be fine for you in the home. And that was something that I battled with. I remember being at one of the elementary schools that I worked at. Our psychologist was from Egypt, and so she had a different viewpoint when it came to kids and what kids should do or not do, at different based on behavior of Egyptian kids, not based on behavior of African American kids in the US. So I think some of those cultural differences can come into play, especially when you're trying to get a diagnosis.
Yeah.
But I don't know, have there been cultural differences with the leaders at the schools that you were having your kid attend, or were they similar to yours?
I will say, and not to say anything other than to say, both of those first daycares, they were ran by predominantly Indian people, which is crazy because all my son's doctors, I kind of stick with the Indian people too. So the Indian doctors, I just feel like they kind of keep it raw and real with you. So I was a little bit thrown off about that, but that's neither here nor there. There's this like star standard that these daycares are trying to reach out here in Texas. And I think if your kid is getting in the way of that, that is where the issues come in, because they need that rating, which is what the home daycare, she didn't care about that rating. So that was like perfect for me. The cultural differences, I feel like when it comes to Black kids, they just label them as bad, especially these boys. Um, yeah, it's always labeled as bad. And like I say it too, like he's bad. Like we say, but it's not meant in that literal way. That other people take it, like say it. They just need some guidance. They need patience. He cannot manage his emotions when it comes to a lot of things. He has very big emotions. He needs that grace, and you can't. That's why I don't fight for him to stay anywhere where they try, even if it's wrong. I'm not going to
Yeah.
fight to keep him there. Like the IEP and all that, for when it's time for him to go to school, yes, because he cannot get kicked out of school. But outside of that, he's telling you to stay nowhere. Even if you guys were lying, even if you guys were telling the truth, even if you guys just need to get him out of there, it's time for him to go. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I love that. And it's so good for you to advocate for your child because nobody else is going to do it. Nobody else is going to advocate the way you can for your child. And I feel that a lot of times there has been a stigma. I feel like it's going away, but there has been a stigma for kids with special needs. And I'm gonna go ahead and say his name, Dr. Umar, who's this like
mm-hmm.
psychologist or whatever. He always says stuff like, "Don't get your kids tested for special education." And I said, that's the wrong answer. The
No,
answer is get your kid tested, but also advocate for your kid to get the services that they need to have that's going to help them improve, that's going to help them get to where they need to get to. It's not about not having your kid tested. No, have them tested, but then also make sure that the supports are being put in place to get them to where they need to be because our kids need whatever they need. Like, I'm glad that you said they were offering occupational therapy, they were offering other
yeah,
services, and that might have been more than enough, but at the same time, I feel like I'm glad that they were offering more than what you needed instead of less than, because
yeah,
none of the schools that I think you went to or the ones that I've worked at, I didn't ever see them offering occupational therapy for any of the students. And I know
mm-mm.
that the students could have benefited from that,
Yeah,
so yeah, it's good that you are that person who is advocating and is on top of it. And one thing that I always tell parents is keep all your documentation, get one of those really thick binders and keep all that documentation, at least from the school and from the doctor, all in one place. Put the little
yeah,
tabs on it by date, and keep it in order by date so that you have that when you go to IEP meetings, so that the schools can have
yes.
access to whatever questions they have. You have the information right there so that your kid gets the best support.
Yeah, I keep everything on my phone and then his little folder. I call it his little autism folder. Just so like even with Alta Regional, like they sent me an email in like the middle of the night because I'm on a different time. Like, hey, we're about to start, picking up this case. Make sure you apply by this date, or you'll get back to, reapply to the wait list. Send me anything that you might. Here you go. Like here's these 100-page documents from ECI with all these different dates of them trying to get somewhere with him and it didn't get anywhere. Here goes this doctor's recommendation, this doctor recommendation. So there's nothing you should. I mean, you want to meet him, you can meet him, but there's really nothing you should need but to just provide him the services. I'm very big on back ending as well. I'm very big on, if I know someone like Adri, I've gone to Adri a lot because I know she is and deals with ABA. I go to her. I have another friend as well that has dealt with ABA, and I talk to them about their opinions and like, what do you think? How they do it out there? Because yeah, the doctors and all that are great, but I want someone that's going to just be real with me as well. So Adriana has also been a major help with kind of me transitioning back there and kind of deciding to go back there. A few people in California, like, my niece gets this and my son gets that out here. And I'm just like, if I would have got this diagnosis a little earlier, I probably would have never moved here. Like
Mhm.
everything is back home anyway.
Yeah, yeah. So, what advice would you have for a parent who is possibly facing a situation where they think their kid might need a diagnosis of autism or even any other disability? What would you say to those parents?
I would say ask the doctor like straight up, like don't be scared to lead, don't be afraid to lead them. Like I think I used to go in like not wanting to speak it into existence. My mom didn't want me to speak it into existence. After a while I was just like, I think he's autistic. What do you what how can we prove he is or not? Like don't make them prove that nothing is wrong with your kid. Don't let them keep telling you nothing is wrong. Great, show me, prove that to me, because they're very big on just like, oh no, they're fine. Okay, show me that, prove to me that they're fine. You're just telling me. Like I felt like I got more once he got the diagnosis and I got all these different links on how to recognize autism in your child, and I'm just like, all of this is very familiar. Like all of this is like, oh wow. And it's like, why you guys should have been pulling this out when I told you I thought my child was autistic, or I told you my child was speech delayed, so I can, like, the questions you ask, I feel like I never know how to answer. But if you would have gave me these bullet points that are all these like little toolkits, I could have told you that, and that.
Mm-hmm.
So just I would just straight up, I think my child's autistic, or I think my child may have ADHD or ODD, anything. Just say straight up and make them prove to you that that's not the case. You don't have to sugarcoat it or tiptoe around it. You're not speaking it to an existence. If it is, it is. If it's not, it's not. Um, I know with ADHD and like ODD, you need medication and you have to wait until they're a certain age, but start making that paper trail for them. Get everything on paper, all the appointments, everything, so that they're just they're not so biased when it comes time to, okay, let's just diagnose. And the worst that you get is a misdiagnosis. They got all these services and stuff that they didn't need. Whoop de doo.
Yeah.
Like even kids without any type of neurodiversity can benefit from ABA. Every kid needs to know how to sit still in the classroom and manage their emotions. It's not going to hurt. It will not hurt at all.
I love that. I love that so much. And I have a friend who's advocating for her daughter, and I mean, they've been giving her the runarounds, and she didn't talk to me about it till she got run around a little bit. But the school was
Yeah.
like, oh, you need a doctor's note. And then the doctor's like, no, the school had, and then they're like, oh, we can't accept that from that doctor. And they were giving her the runarounds back and forth.
Yeah.
But then she's like, listen, these are the challenges I'm having. This is why my kid is struggling in these classes, and finally they're like, okay, we'll go ahead and give this diagnosis. But then the one doctor who gave the diagnosis, the school was like, we can't accept it from that person. And so they were giving her the runarounds. But I'm glad that
Yeah.
she's persistent with it, because she's at home with the kid when she's crying and don't want to go to me,
Yeah.
like really breaking down. And I was like, if I hadn't witnessed it myself, I wouldn't have believed what my friend was saying. When she tells you what's happening, it's hard to believe, but when you
Yes.
see it, you're like, oh my God, it is happening, just like she said. She's not exaggerating.
And
And
I don't
so,
know why it's like that. I
yeah.
don't know. I feel like it's like there's no way this little kid. Yes, they are. Like I would update my son's dad on what I was going through, and I don't think he realized. So we went back to Sacramento for Thanksgiving that just passed, and he got him twice, and both times within a few hours. He's like, I gotta bring him back, and I'm like, I told you, and that was fine. I told him before we came. I was like, hey, he's a lot. It's gonna take some time. It's gonna take some practice. If you need to bring him back, bring him back. Don't leave him with anybody. If he came with you, he leaves with you. He's not for everyone. And it was like a wake up call for him. He was like, whoa. I was like, yeah.
Good. Because oftentimes people would think that, oh, you can just discipline it out of them. Like autism is not
Yes.
necessarily new. There may be some factors, environmental factors, that may be causing it to be more prevalent or more recognizable now. But because when I was growing up, there was no thing as autism. We never heard that word.
No,
Um,
y'all were just getting beat.
People was just getting whoopings. You just had to beat that devil out of them. Like it was
Yeah.
crazy how people handled things back then. But now to see that now my question is, have they given you any like natural ways to deal with any of his behaviors, or said like these are some, because I've heard things like nutrition, certain foods can trigger behavior to change, versus this red dye number 40 that needs to go out of the food and things
Yeah.
like that.
No, the doctors themselves haven't. I don't know if it will be different in California once we get him set back up. Because I just feel like when it comes to that type of stuff, even before having a kid, noticing with myself, you just have to come across that great doctor that will recommend some home remedies.
Yeah.
I just kind of been looking them up myself. Once you get that diagnosis, you just do the research yourself. I've looked up like different vitamins and stuff, because a lot of it too I feel like can be reversed with diet. I do believe in that. I know some people don't. There's a lot of other people that have sent me, think, the metal cleanse and different little diets. Problem is, picky eating for a neurodivergent child is not picky eating. It's a sensory thing. So we can't even get there until you get into some ABA, get with the nutritionist. We start trying to get you to eat more, because like I can tell you a little what he eats more than I could tell you what he doesn't really eat. It's like a multivitamin a day and pray. Like I feel like definitely look up those remedies yourself, but you need help. Like your child needs ABA. You are not going to be, there is no such thing as they'll eat eventually. No, an autistic kid will starve themselves. So that is the next step, is I really do want to try those natural remedies. I want to start getting him to eat, try to get him to eat more like healthy stuff, more organic stuff, to see if we can kind of reverse some of that stuff. So I'm just kind of starting with, I just came across, I think it's Spectrum Heroes or something. It's like a multivitamin, but it's just more than just your regular multivitamin that you'll get at the store, that I feel like hasn't done anything for him. And they're powders, because they're a picky eater, so I can just put in anything. So I did just recently order that. I want to see how that works for him. I feel like a lot of the picky eating might be my fault too, with the whole breastfeeding thing too, because it's just like, why you don't eat anything? But I feel like diet, I think that's the main thing. Well, a lot of people say that has worked for their children. I can't wait to be able to try that. And a lot of people recommend it to me, and I don't like to seem dismissive, but it just be like rolling my eyes. I can't even get there, guys. Like, I can't even get there. I can't. He's not going to eat it. He's not going to eat.
Yeah.
But he won't even, he's never eaten a vegetable in his life. Like, he doesn't try it. He eats with his eyes, his hands. So it's a hurdle. There's like one hurdle after another. You get past one thing and then you're on to the next one.
Will he take like smoothies?
Um, he may or may not. It depends on the smoothie. I'm going to try like that Lakewood, and I think it's another brand. I'm gonna try those juices first before I start wasting money on juices and trying to juice. For him, I think he will be more open to drinking than trying to eat something. So I think I have been thinking about the next best thing is to try to get it in what he drinks. Like I've been drinking chlorophyll, and he wants to drink that. So I'm like, oh, well, I have some super greens powder that you can drink instead. And so I tried that on him this morning. He took a few sips. So I don't know, that might be easier. Any type of powder, anything you can just mix in and hide in there or
Yeah.
whatever, then I think that will help. I think diet is a big, would be a big help for any autistic kid, except for a majority of them were not eating anything.
Yeah. And then, so yeah, any final words as we close this out? But thank you so much for taking the time to share and open up your life to us. Because my goal with this Don't Screw Up Your Kids podcast is that we all can be better and we'll share our experiences. I don't have any problem sharing the areas that I messed up as a parent. You know, being a teen mom, I made a whole lot of mistakes. And so when I find people who are doing things right, I'm like, we got to share those things so that other people learn how to make the better decisions for their kids as well. Any final words that you have to share with people who may be considering having their kid tested, or parents who may have seen some differences and like, this kid is different from my other kids? Any
Yeah.
final words?
Speak up, advocate, pay attention. A lot of conversations I have, people think like their family members are in denial or not listening or they're getting offended. And a lot of times they're just not paying attention. Pay attention to your kids. You had them. It's not about you. That is the big thing I'm going to always, it's not about you. Even me, I'm still kind of getting to the point of opening up and talking about it more on social media. And I am very big on talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm not perfect. I am still struggling with that thin line between disability and discipline. I even just recently noticed a lot of times I'm holding him back, just not wanting to tackle another hurdle and what I know it's going to cause me. And then like I do something, I try to teach him something, he gets it in a day. So a lot of times us as a parent, we're holding our kid back, we're being lazy, we're not doing what we're supposed to do, but we had him. So just do what you're supposed to do. Don't screw up your kids, guys. No, you worry about what people may say if they're diagnosed as neurodivergent. What are they gonna say when they're 30 and you got to take care of them, or they just out in these streets acting crazy? They gonna really
Yeah.
talk about you. So just do what you got to do now.
Yeah, you got to do your due diligence, and because all races have kids who have autism, all economic groups have it.
Yeah,
It's just it happens, and we don't know, and I don't think it's related to Tylenol, although our president would have you think that. Um,
Lord.
I don't think that's it, but it is our responsibility as parents to do all that we can to help our kids live the best life that they can,
Yeah.
and it does take work. To be a
Yeah.
good parent takes work, period.
Period.
Whether you have a child with autism or not, it still takes work.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad that you are doing the work. It was so good talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to share your story.
Thank you
And
for
thank you
having
to
me.
everybody who's watching. And we'll see you on another episode of the Don't Screw Up Your Kids podcast. Have a great day.
See you guys later. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.